Hello, I'm Esther Roche and welcome to the Mom CEO podcast. Join me as we explore the dynamic intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship. From the challenges to the triumphs, we're here to unravel it all. Get ready for insightful conversations, practical wisdom, and a whole lot of inspiration. Let's embark on this empowering journey together. Hello and welcome to the Mom CEO podcast. Today I am joined by Sarah Hodgkins, who is an award-winning mural painter of Charlotte Designs. Hello, Sarah, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Esther. Thank you very much for asking to be part of your podcast.
No, you're very welcome. Just for the benefit of our guests, could you please introduce yourself and just let us know a little bit about you and what you do?
Okay. Well, as already mentioned, I'm Sarah Hodgkins. My business is Charlotte Designs, and I am a muralist mainly. I also do painted faux finishes. I do mural restorations. I do mural workshops. So anything around murals, I'm sure you get the gist. That is what I do. And I've been doing it now for 19 years, unbelievably, 19 years at the beginning of May. So, a long time. And I set my business up when I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Yes, I must be completely bonkers. But here we are, nearly 20 years later, and I've got grown-up children and a successful business. So I must have done something right somewhere along the way.
No, definitely. And to be honest, I've picked something there because of how young your children were when you started. Was that a daunting experience? How did you find that, just getting started with them really young like that? What motivated you to do it with them so young?
Okay, well, no. And it's a very valid question. I had a very big role. So when I had my children, I worked for a telecoms company, and I had a pan-European role, which necessitated me getting on a plane and flying to different locations in Europe, often at very short notice. And of course, that sort of thing becomes very difficult to do once you've got small people in tow, because apparently you can't leave them on their own. I mean, who knew? So I realised that I needed to make some serious adjustments. Coupled into that, my husband was a consultant. So he was working away Monday to Friday pretty much every week, probably 3 weeks out of 4. So I didn't have that support at home either. So I just thought, you know what, I need to do something different. And I talked to my boss, who I have to say was absolutely brilliant. And he engineered redundancy for me. So I was able to leave the company with a lump sum, not a huge lump sum, but a lump sum nevertheless, a computer. They kept all my private health on and stuff like that. So they could not have been more generous in their sort of exit plan for me. And then I thought, right, well, I'm not the sort of person that wants to just sit at home doing nothing. The easiest way of constructing my own work-life balance is to set up on my own. And I had done that previously, so it wasn't like that was a completely new decision to me.
Right.
And, I mean, yes, it was daunting, but I didn't really think about it at the time. If I'm brutally honest, I knew I wanted to bring my children up. I knew I didn't want to be one of those mums that, took their kids to a nanny in the morning and then didn't see them again till 6 o'clock at night. Nothing against people who do that, by the way, just wasn't right for me. And just felt that was really my only option. I just didn't see that I had any other options. So that's really how it came about.
Oh, wow. So with it's a lot of consideration, because your life suddenly changes when you have little people on tour, because from just you packing your suitcase and being able to just go when you want to go, life becomes slightly different. And I think it's important for people to realize that things change and you have to make adjustments to suit your own needs. Which is just incredible, because we are often found in that situation ourselves. So with regards to even family, did you have anybody close by, or it was just you?
No. So my parents lived about 40 miles away. So they were close enough that if, in a dire emergency, they could have been here within the hour sort of thing. But not close enough that they could sort of take the kids on a regular basis. I guess I was lucky in some ways in that there were probably about 4 or 5 of us in the village at the time that were either freelance, working for ourselves, setting up a business. And we basically, looking back now, we kind of formed this consortium, and we would, certainly during school holidays, we would just take it in turns to have kids. I mean, my house was always full of children. Or they would go to someone else's house and I would be able to work. So we just had this, the kids just kind of went round this group of houses in the village, and they probably did that for the best part of 10 years, really.
And that's really, really important as well, because I find, having getting into business, you need to have that supportive community. And sometimes people are reluctant or a bit worried to form those types of community. It doesn't really matter. You formed it for the childcare side of things, but in lots of areas that when you're doing business, it just becomes important to have that ongoing support, and you can bounce ideas off somebody. So that's absolutely brilliant. And I guess it saved you a ton of money as well from childcare, because they're horrendous.
They both went to nursery. My daughter went to nursery when I went back to work, because I did go back to work, obviously, when she was born as the eldest. So I did have nursery costs for I don't know, probably 18 months or so. And then obviously I took a longer maternity leave with my son. So she was then old enough to go to preschool, which of course was all funded and all that kind of thing. So I just felt like I was constantly juggling different things. We were very fortunate in that we did have a nursery in the village of sorts. A lot of people didn't like it. How it got its Ofsted, I have no idea, because it was just filthy. But my son loved it there. He was just never happier than when he got to spend a couple of hours there. But sadly, that closed down, unsurprisingly. So we lost that option, shall we say, fairly early on. But yeah, without that support network, I would not have been able to set up my business. I mean, it is as simple as that, because I didn't have any other kind of support close by.
Yeah. No, that's really important, for anybody listening, just to make sure that you do take time to build the community and have the right people supporting you or around you. And, with regards to your career, obviously leaving your job, were you always into art and design, or is it something that you retrained in at a later stage?
So I kind of came back to it. Right. So I worked as an interior designer back in the 80s. And really from about 85 through to about 93, I was working first for another interior designer. And that's really where I came across murals for the first time. And then I worked for myself from 89 through to about 93. And then unfortunately, the recession of the early 90s just killed my business stone dead. I was doing a lot of show homes for builders at the time. And the building industry just went through the most severe of recessions. And I was doing loads of show homes and putting loads of money and work into putting show homes together for builders. And the builders would go bust. And no one was answering the phone on Monday morning. I mean, it really was like that. And I just got to the point where I thought, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm in my 20s and I'm scrabbling around looking for work. This is just not right. So I just literally woke up one morning and closed my doors. I mean, it really was as simple as that. And went and got a job.
It's just the resilience, isn't it? And just the determination to keep going, because you could have easily just given up and just thought, okay, that's it, and I'm not going to do it anymore. But you went back to it, even though it was...
Well, I did, but a long time later. So the wounds had healed, I think it's fair to say. So, yeah, I mean, as I say, I closed my doors in 93. And I didn't set up my business until 2005. So what's that? That's 12 years later. So it's quite a big gap in between.
And
I'm very old.
not really. There's no age element, but it's all the life lessons. I think it's all the things that you've gone through, because for those that are listening in thinking, okay, I've had one business not be as successful. I think one of the important things is we learn from, whether it's we all view success in different ways, but some people might consider closing one business down as failure completely, and other people might see it as a learning curve where they're going to pick some things that went well or didn't go so well, and find a different strategy to how they do things. What's your take on that, on your own experience?
Well, for me, it was all I suppose it was all conscious decisions led by circumstances. So I closed down my interior design business because the recession was really having a significant effect on my business, and I actually kept going for longer than I thought I might be able to. But I just got bored of it. I got bored of the scrabbling around, and I got bored of spending more of my time trying to find work than I was actually doing it. And it was a conscious decision. I didn't feel forced. I just thought, do you know what? I've had enough of this. This is not what I want to do anymore. And that sort of 12 years in that interim period, I had 2 or 3 very good jobs where I learned a lot. So when I came to do it again for Charlotte Designs, I was a different person. I was 12 years more experienced. I had a bigger why because I had the kids and I knew that I really had to make this work. And I don't know. I just think when you're older, you're just a little bit more go with the flow a little bit. I mean, I'm still very, I think most people would say I'm quite sort of single-minded. I'm quite determined. I am a risk taker. But I think I've mellowed as I've got older. So I don't think I'm quite as bad as I used to be.
Well, you're certainly doing something right. And, with obviously having the children around when they were growing up, how did you prioritize your time, with regards to spending time with them, as well as giving time to then setting up the business and stuff, which is quite involving?
It is. So like most women who are mothers and set up their own businesses, you find you have this weird work pattern. So I would do some work sort of like early in the morning. Then, of course, I'd be in child mode. And then you'd get them to school and you'd have this sort of short little bit of time from sort of 9:30 to, I don't know, 2:30 or 3:00 or whatever it happened to be. After school clubs were brilliant. And then you'd be in mum mode until sort of 7:30 or whatever it was. And then you go back to work. And I would work till 10, 11, midnight on a regular basis. Now, I'm very fortunate in that, as I say, my husband was working away during the week. So I didn't have someone sitting there going, oh, isn't it time you stopped working? Because there was nobody there to tell me that. And secondly, I'm a night person. So I actually wake up at about 8:00 in the evening. So actually that 8:00 to midnight slot is actually quite a productive slot for me. And I appreciate that's not the same for everybody, but for me, it's actually quite a productive time. And I think the other lesson I learned, and I do say this to people quite a lot, is particularly because of the work I did, I needed to have my mind working properly. I found that having my kids around and trying to work while they were doing something didn't work for me. It really didn't work at all. I had to say, right, this block of time is work time. The kids are going to someone else's house for a couple of hours, and this is the work time, and I will do what I need to do in those hours. And then it's mum time. Because I found when I was trying to do both things, I was doing neither of them well. And it took me a little while to learn that lesson. But once I got there, it absolutely transformed my life, if I'm brutally honest. And then, of course, I did work weekends as well. when husband was back, it's like, there you go, children, off you go, bye.
But I suppose it's nice to know that you could do that when your husband was back and everything, but it's also setting that time, because I'm similar to you. I'm quite productive in the nighttime. I don't do too much now, but certainly earlier on in my life with certain things, I did work at nighttime because I like it nice and quiet. I can think clearly, and I can't. You can't really do both. If I have the kids around, they're gonna ask me, "Oh, mom, I'm hungry. Mom, can I have the?" You really can't, can you? You can't be concentrating fully on trying to do a write-up about something when the kids are asking you for something else. So it's learning to divide and have different time for different things, and that balances it out quite nicely.
Yeah, and to be honest, once I worked that out, that really did transform my life. And if I look back now over the 19 years that I've been in business, every time the kids have gone to the next school age or the next school or whatever, the business has expanded. Now, and that's not a coincidence. It's because I suddenly have more time to be able to devote to my business. It's as simple as that. So, you can almost see these little steps as the kids have got older and have been more independent. You just find yourself with more time to devote to the business. So I've just tried to take advantage of that when those natural steps in the kids' development happens.
Yeah. And with, looking at the children, do you feel, they've benefited from growing up seeing you being an entrepreneur and setting up and those kind of things? What benefits do you think they've got from all that?
Well, interestingly, once we booked our little conversation today, I thought I'd ask them. I thought, what better way of actually finding out than actually to ask them? And they actually both said very similar things, even though they are very different people. And that was that they believe now that having an entrepreneur as a mum has benefited them. My son, I sat here, was talking to him the other night about this. He said, I'm not afraid of starting my own business. He said, I've seen you do it. I know you have to work hard, and I'm not afraid of working hard. And I've seen what can happen if you do work hard. And he said, I'm just not afraid of doing that. And interestingly, my daughter is just about to graduate as a fashion photographer, and she will probably end up being freelance as well. And she said very similar things. She said, I'm just not afraid of working for myself. She said there were times when, we would have been nice to have, seen you and we had to go into someone else's house. But she said those occasions were so rare. And actually, when we had you, you were there, you were present. I'm very proud of the fact I never missed a sports day. I never missed a concert. I never missed an assembly. I never missed any of those things because I built my work around that. So I was there for all the important things that they needed me there for, and they appreciated that as well. So I don't think really, now they're adults, that there's any negative side to it, if I'm honest. Well, they certainly couldn't tell me any anyway, put it that way. So either they were being very polite, which is not like them, or that is the truth.
Yeah, but you can see it, and it's almost like instilled a work ethic in them, in that they have the value and seeing how important it is to work hard. It doesn't really matter what you do in life, but if you simply don't work hard, you're not going to be getting those results and things. And I like the fact that you managed to build your own business around the kids and attend things, but we're all in different circumstances, and sometimes it's not always possible. And I remember when I was starting out, I couldn't do sports days, and that's one of the reasons that pushed me to setting up my own business, because when you try and ask, and those things are not long as well, are they? But it's difficult to say to an employer, can I just come in half an hour later because I have to watch this play? And the answer is no. And it's almost like sometimes it's so hard as a parent, because you're trying to do it, but you also then are having to do the job and all those things around. What advice would you give other parents that are sort of wanting to venture into setting up their own businesses and but have a young family?
So I think the advice I would give is, apart from what we've already said about dividing your time and all of that kind of stuff, which I do think is important, is do something that makes you happy. Because whatever you do in your business is going to take you away from your children. And my thing was always, if it's going to take me away from my children, it needs to be damn good, because otherwise I'd rather be with my kids. So for me, it had to be something that really ignited my passion and made me happy to spend time away from my children. So I think that's the thing. If you don't have anything like that, then probably setting up a business may not be for you. It's interesting, as I say, looking back over the 19 years, it's interesting how some people similar age to myself, kids of similar age, have set up their own businesses, and then as the kids have got older, have gone back into employment. And it's because the business served them at that time in their life. They were able to have some control over their work-life balance, but actually it wasn't really their passion. It wasn't really, something that fired them up. So as soon as they had the opportunity, they went back to paid employment. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know dozens of people that have done that. So I think just find something that you're passionate about, be prepared to put in the effort, and it doesn't matter whether you're a mum or a dad or no kids at all. Setting up a business is hard work, and you've got to put the effort in. And just try and work smart. There are lots of tools out there, far more now than there was when I set my business up nearly 20 years ago. Use those tools to make your life easier, because there is an awful lot out there. Try and make the most of the time you have. In fact, it's a bit of a standing joke. I was one of those mums that was always sprinting to the school gate about a minute late to pick up my children, because I was always trying to cram so much into that, work time I had. So yeah, it was a bit of a standing joke, really, that I was always the mum sprinting or sneaking into the concert at the back, because I was just that couple of minutes. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't, and the main thing is you made it work. You did what you had to do, and I love the fact that you've pointed out about having the passion for what you do, because I think nowadays a lot of things have changed in that most people are encouraged to do things that they genuinely have a passion for or love doing, something that you enjoy getting out of bed for, because if you don't love it enough, it's a dread, isn't it, on a daily basis, and that is so important. So yeah, no, that's a brilliant advice.
No, I think if you're a business person, if you're not passionate about your business, you are never ever going to be able to ignite the passion in your customers. I mean, it's just never going to happen. So for me, it starts with what's in here, and if that is burning brightly enough, that will eventually, with a bit of hard work, permeate out and ignite the passion in other people. So yeah, I mean, I had a double problem, I suppose, in that when I started my business, no one knew what a mural was. So I often had to start the conversation by explaining what a mural was. Even in that 20 years, things have changed enormously, and I rarely have to do that these days.
Yeah, no, that's really incredible. So is there any exciting projects or anything on the horizon coming up for you?
Always. Well, I suppose the first exciting thing is I've just launched a podcast. It's called The Paint Pod. I am interviewing successful artists about their life, their work, it's probably not dissimilar to what we've just talked about in some ways, how they have combined the business side of their practice with the artistic side of their practice, and become a successful artist. There's this misconception, shall we say, that artists have to be poor and not make lots of money to be successful. And that's, of course, the rubbish. I'm interviewing lots of artists who are very successful and earn plenty of money from their art. And I think sharing their experiences is quite a useful thing to do. So that's one thing. And then I do quite a lot of work in the healthcare sector. That's probably the sector that I enjoy the most. And I've just secured a very large contract with one of my regular clients that's basically going to see me through the entire summer.
Oh, wow. It's not small then, not a small project.
No, we've already done a series of what we call courtyard murals. So it's a psychiatric hospital, and so the only outside space that a lot of the residents have is a four-walled courtyard. And basically, the Care Quality Commission have said not good enough. You need to give some stimulation, some interest in that area, because four brick walls is not good enough. Which is great for me because I go along and paint lovely pictures on the walls for them so that they've got some colour and some interest and some form in those courtyards.
No, that's brilliant. Well, you know, good luck with all those things that are happening. And, you know, the podcast, I'll definitely be listening in. I'm not much of an artist. I love art, but I'm not an artist myself.
You don't need to be an artist. It's not that kind of podcast. You don't need to be highbrow and be able to, judge how a good piece of artwork is. It's about people. It's about learning how the creative brain works and understanding how creative people can earn a living from their creativity.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. Thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing all those things. What I'll do is when the episode is released, there will be a link at the bottom. So if anybody wishes to contact you, then they can reach you. But, you know, it's been a lovely, lovely conversation. And thank you for sharing all those insights. And hopefully the audience is going to be inspired by your journey.
Good. I hope so too. Thanks, Esther.
You're welcome.